Let's move to the running back prop here for week one. Sleepy, where are you taking us?
All right, I was curious what your thoughts are on this pick there, Munaf, because as I was breaking this one down, I'm like, Munaf probably have some pretty decent thoughts on this one. So I'm going to go with Jaguars running back, Tank Bigsby. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to play him over his rushing yards of 43 and a half. I think that this is the year where Etienne finally takes the back seat to Bigsby in this Jaguars offense. Bigsby last year, he ended up splitting touches with Etienne, but he still got, maybe it was like a dozen or so more Etienne had, but it wasn't like he completely out touched Bigsby. Etienne was more relied on in third down. I'm not sure that that's going to be the case there this year. This Jaguar offense, I think it's going to be much better. And I think that, Bigsby has to realize like this is his chance to be a number one running back in this league, to go out there and get a good contract, for the rest of his life. I mean, this could pan out for the rest of his life. So I think he's going to run smart. I think he's going to run tough this entire year. And the only thing that worries me about this particular play is that the Jaguars' offensive line is not very good. But the Panthers' rush defense, it was far and away the worst in the entire league last year. I know they brought a couple pieces in, but they're not going to be much better. I mean, this could still be a bottom five rush defense in the league. I think that you bring in Hunter, you got Lawrence, you got Thomas. I think that that will probably back up Carolina's defense a little bit because there's now, a couple other threats out there. So I think Bigsby's going to take the keys there, especially in game one at home. I think he comes out here looking to go ahead and just be the best he can be, and that's going to get him over to 43 and a half rushing yards. So, and don't forget, you got a head coaching change too. So the whole Doug Peterson experience, that involved a lot of ETN. I
Yeah.
feel like Bigsby was brought in here, and yeah, and I just feel like this is his year. This is a big year for him. I think if you picked him up in fantasy, this is a guy you're going to be happy maybe to have on your bench that you could plug in as a starter, week to week. So that's where I'm at with him. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're spot on here. You take a look at going back to last season for Tank Bigsby, the final 5 games that he did play, and he had double-digit rush attempts in those games, and he was the leading rushing yards leader for this Jacksonville Jaguars team at 766 yards on 168 carries in 16 games that he did play. Right, 4.6 yards per carry. Compare that to Travis Etienne at 3.7 yards only, so almost about a yard more per carry was Tank Bigsby getting for this offense. And you mentioned the defense there for the Carolina Panthers, right? Their especially their rush defense. I mean, it was probably historically bad last year, where they gave up close to 180 rushing yards per game on the ground. Just to put that into perspective, Sleepy, the second worst team was the New Orleans Saints, who gave up 38 yards less per contest compared to the Carolina Panthers. So I'm not sure they improved that much defensively, did the Carolina Panthers, but I could see a world here, Sleepy, where Tank Bigsby does out get more snap counts and more carries than Travis Etienne in this matchup here. And again, you mentioned Liam Cohen coming over as a head coach of this Jacksonville Jaguars team. We saw last year that they really utilized the 2 running backs in Bucky Irving and also Rachaad White last season. So I think there might be a split carries here for both Tank Bigsby and also Travis Etienne. But I think when it comes down to who I trust more in the running game, I'd be with you on Tank Bigsby here. So I think this is a very buy low situation. Again, if he does go out and have a game where he has 50, 60, 70 yards, this number is just going to skyrocket in week 2. And this is where we're going to capitalize on it, at least, especially in week 1. Speaking of Bucky Irving, that's where I'm going to go with my running back prop. And I'm going to go for his longest rush attempt to go over 15 and a half yards in this game. This one is a little bit juiced at minus 125 right now for Bucky Irving, but I think it's going to be clear cut that he's going to be the number one guy in that backfield for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. I know so Rachaad White was dealing with some type of injuries in training camp and in practice, but he seems like he'll be ready to go. But I do expect Bucky Irving to be the RB1 for this team this upcoming season. And let's go back to last season, right? What you take a look at the splits for the running back room of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I mean, he only had in Bucky Irving 207 carries in 17 games that he played last season. That equated to 1,122 rushing yards on the ground, 5.4 yards per carry for Bucky Irving. And if you take a look at last season after their bye week, Bucky Irving really took over as that RB1. And in 6 of those 8 games after their bye week, and this also includes the playoff game in the NFC wildcard game against the Commanders, where they did lose 23-20. 6 of those 8 games, he had a longest rush attempt of at least 16 yards or more. And some of these weren't even close: 25, 34, 54, 43, 56. And now you're going against an Atlanta Falcons team where he did have success against his team last season on the ground. And I think that continues here. I think they lean on him a little bit more in this game, especially with all the wide receiver injuries that his Buccaneers team has right now. We know the Jalen McMillans and the Chris Godwins who are going to be out for an extended amount of time, and that leaves you, Mike Evans and I think they're gonna have to rely on Bucky Irving both in the running game and also in the passing game here. But I think he can break one out at least. I would expect him to get anywhere from 17 to 20 carries in this game here, Sleepy. So I'll take his longest rush attempt to go over 15 and a half yards in this game.
All right. Well, I don't have a pick on this one, but I will say this. I'm not against your guy, but I'm also not against Rachaad White. And the reason I say that is because I was betting him before he hit his pinnacle. So I made money with Rachaad White. So I don't want to just go ahead and completely throw him in the
Sure.
trash. But I have to say this as Bucky Irvin's the better of the two. I actually think that this is going to look similar to when like Raheem Mostert was backing up all the star players that he was. Like that's
Yeah.
going to be the role that Rachaad White's going to take. This is going to be Bucky Irvin's offense. So I would be with you before I'd be against you, but I'm not throwing any shade on Rachaad White because dude was good to me. So got to give him his flowers.
All right. So those are our running back props there for week one. And again, just to recap those, Sleepy's going with Tank Bigsby of the Jacksonville Jaguars over 43 and a half rushing yards. And I am taking Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back Bucky Irving, longest rush attempt over 15 and a half yards for the matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. All right.